In this video, I am going to review this, and he's probably going to go to sleep in a minute. Aren't you? This is a new magnetic filter system from K&F Concept. Now, I want to kick off by not only giving a shout out and a thank you to K&F for sending me this to test and review, but I also want to disclose that whilst this is an honest, unbiased review of this filter system, there is a link to it in the description down below, which is an affiliated link. So if you purchase this item through that link, I will earn a commission, but that is not going to impact my assessment of this filter system, just for disclosure. Also disclosure, there is this discount code you can use to get 5% off your purchases through K&F's website. The idea of a magnetic setup is you don't have to keep screwing and unscrewing everything. Everything just locks into place very quickly. Let me explain. Inside this pouch, which incidentally is a very nice little carry pouch that's got Velcro straps and a little hook on the back. Inside there are 4 padded compartments because there are 4 parts of this filter. You've got a 10-stop ND filter, a polarizing filter, a UV filter, and a completely hollow metal ring. Now, the hollow ring with nothing on it is your base adapter ring, and this is the only one that you need to screw onto the front of your lens. Now, it's only a dainty little thing, and it's got a recessed front as well, which means the lens cap can still lock onto the front of it, and in a lot of cases as well, your lens hood can still go over it. So in theory, this base ring can live on a lens if you want it to. Now, you can choose to substitute the base ring for the UV filter and screw the UV filter straight to your lens if you want to, but that means you're then forced to use the UV filter along with the other filters. And then when you want to use the system, you just select whichever filter you want to use, and it just sticks to the front of your lens. And because it's magnetic, it's not going to fall off. And then if you change your mind and decide you want to use the CPL instead, done. Or you can get really adventurous and decide you want to use both the CPL and the ND at the same time. You can, in theory, stack all 3 filters one on top of the other. UV, polarizer, ND filter. Personally, wouldn't suggest you do that for a couple of reasons. Firstly, UV filters kind of become a little bit pointless when you've got polarizers and ND filters thrown on top of everything. Secondly, making it such a deep filter does risk vignetting. Now, using all 3 filters on any focal length longer than 35mm doesn't really produce any noticeable vignetting. However, shorter than 35mm focal lengths do start to cause a problem. At 28mm with all 3 filters, you get very strong shading in the corners. You still get quite strong vignetting even with 2 filters. And down at 20mm, which is the widest focal length I have, all 3 filters pretty much blacked out the edges of the frame. Even 2 filters still produce quite strong vignetting, and there was some mild vignetting with only a single filter. So at longer focal lengths, stacking multiple filters won't present a problem. However, for wide angle shooters, I would strongly recommend only using 1 filter at a time. There is one complaint that we have about the usability of this setup, however, which is, I think, a missed opportunity on K&F's behalf, and something that I hope they address in the future. If you take a normal 67mm screw filter and try and attach it to the front of this, it doesn't work. Namely because the diameter of this filter is slightly larger than 67mm, so this can't actually grip to the edges, but also because the insides don't actually look like they've got a proper spiral going on them, so you couldn't screw anything into place anyway. And I do think that's a missed opportunity, because it would have been great to have the flexibility to put magnetic filters on, or take a normal screw filter and then attach it onto the front of everything else. Now, obviously, I wouldn't recommend, say, dropping a square filter system onto the front of a magnetic polarizer and then attaching the whole lot onto your lens, because the weight of that will pull the whole thing off. But it would have been nice to be able to take a regular square filter setup and attach it straight to the front of the base ring that's already on the lens. Because now, for me to use this square filter system on this lens means that I have to unscrew the base ring to attach the square filter system, and then when I've finished, have to swap them back over, which puts us basically back into the same original problem that magnetic filters was supposed to alleviate. or for the fact that the only ND filter in this setup is a 10-stop ND filter, if you wanted to use anything slightly weaker or stronger, you couldn't add them onto the top of the polarizing filter or even the base ring. In terms of the sharpness using these, again, I did some various test shots comparing no filters to each filter singularly and then stacking them all up together. And surprisingly, even stacking all 3 filters on top of each other, I expected a drop in sharpness. There is a fraction of a decline in terms of resolution, but actually not that much. And in reality, like I said, you're not going to stack all 3 filters on top of each other. Any one single filter makes very little difference to the sharpness at all, and only a marginal difference even if you use 2 filters. So in terms of the resolution, very impressive. And in terms of color renderings, again, they're not quite completely perfect. There is a slight shift to the colors, but not a hugely noticeable one. Now, there is one anomaly I found when using the CPL and the ND filter together. Certain rotations of the CPL can create a casting, a color shift across the frame. However, strangely, it only happens when you have the ND filter fitted on top of the CPL. If you have the CPL on top of the ND, you get no casting at all, seemingly at any rotation. And then again, throwing a load of additional glass in front of a lens, I was expecting a big jump in flaring. But again, pretty well controlled. Using both of these filters shooting directly into the sun, there is a hint of flare spots that start to creep in that weren't there before, but all told, not particularly noticeable and not particularly surprising either. So optically, extremely good performance from these filters. Now, these are available in a range of different sizes, but the price does vary depending on what size you go for. Starting at just over $100 for the 49mm system, heading up to $143 for the 82mm system. But that's it for this video, guys. Like I said at the start, if you want to go and check these filters out, there is an affiliated link down below, so please consider using that. As always, if you have any questions or queries, feel free to leave them in the comment box down below. And if you haven't already done so and you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button, and then hopefully we'll see you in the next video.